The story begins with Hirasawa Kazuki, an ordinary Japanese university student who unexpectedly receives a notice predicting his destruction 8 years later. Confused by this prediction, Kazuki starts to wonder about what's happening, trying to figure things out as everything gets weirder. A flower pot shatters, prompting accusations and apologies, leading Kazuki to wonder if he's caught in a game-like scenario. Kazuki's thoughts drift to the immersive world of Brave Hearts, a classic fantasy RPG featuring a protagonist named Liner, whose mission is to prevent a plot aimed at destroying the world. The game is rather good despite its simplistic 2D battle screen. The game offers a variety of actions like special, magic, and skills, keeping players hooked with its exciting combat mechanics. As for the storyline, it follows a straightforward path, guiding players through the main plot, but the hidden dungeons and extra events make it an attractive feature. The characters of the game, head of the Stokes family, Hayden, along with his wife Jessica and their maid Clara. As Kazuki observes these characters coming to life, a wave of uncertainty washes over him. He questions the reality of it all, wondering where he was and what he was doing before arriving at this moment. Being thrown into such a sad event out of nowhere worries him a lot. Then, he remembers this particular scene triggers a flashback to a scenario from the game involving Clara. The mother of the main heroine was executed by the eldest son of the Stokes family, Harold. Kazuki looks around for Harold. Jessica, Harold's mother, tries to reassure her son, telling him that everything is all right and there's no need to worry. However, Hayden refuses to listen to any pleas for mercy. He decides to take matters into his own hands and end Clara's life himself. But Harold steps in and requests his father to let him do it instead. This unexpected request surprises Hayden, and he questions Harold's intentions. Harold explains that he has learned some new magic recently and suggests using Clara as a training dummy instead of letting her blood stain the room. Hayden finds this idea amusing and agrees, telling them to throw her into the dungeon. He insults her, calling her a filthy half-breed, and expresses disappointment in her performance despite their kindness in employing her. Jessica adds that Clara is inferior and could be useful for Harold's experiments. Kazuki thinks about how much younger he is than the character in the story. He wondered why he had been transformed into Harold, the despised protagonist from Brave Hearts, who was destined to meet his demise at the hands of justice, the final boss. Kazuki wasn't sure if he was possessed or merely dreaming. As a regular college student, the whole situation seemed unbelievable. Meanwhile, someone knocked on the door. Kazuki answered, but he wasn't sure if he should have said enter without being instructed to do so. It felt like the voice spoke on its own. The butler, Norman, entered the room. Kazuki recognized Norman as a sensible figure, affectionately known as the conscience of the Stokes. Despite not being a member of the Stokes family, Norman was highly respected. Kazuki asked why Norman was there. Norman had come to consult Harold about something, but he noticed that something seemed off with Harold. He inquired if Harold was feeling unwell and offered to return later. Harold insisted he was fine, but Norman observed that Harold's expression did not match his words. Kazuki felt frustrated because his thoughts seemed to sound like Harold's, making it hard for him to communicate normally. Norman found it odd because Harold usually didn't hide his feelings, yet Harold seemed different this time. Norman, unaware of Kazuki's internal struggle, asked Harold to go easy on Clara's punishment, but Kazuki remembered something important about Clara. He knew that in the game, Clara's fate was tied to her daughter Colette, a key character. Kazuki had to decide whether to intervene or stick to the original plot. Kazuki thought about changing the game's story. If he could do it, he might join the hero, Liner, but it might bring bad things later. So, he decided not to change much and stay safe. Kazuki, feeling hesitant, observed Harold's reluctance to take action to save Clara. Kazuki worried that his actions might make others dislike him even more. Harold told Norman that if he wanted to help Clara, he should take action first and discuss it later. Then, he told Norman to hurry up and leave. Kazuki thought about what he did. He started to worry that he acted too quickly. Having that voice in his head was a problem, and he didn't want to make things worse. He thought about just giving up, but then he remembered something important. If he died here, maybe he could go back home. But then he realized that dying in the real world would be silly. So, he decided it was too risky to try anything dangerous. After that, Kazuki searched through the shelves and found something interesting. He picked up an empty life potion bottle and a red marble that looked like ones from the game. Then he saw some books in Japanese and realized he could read them too. So, he decided that for now, the best thing to do as Harold Stokes was to avoid doing anything that could mess things up, and just stick to the storyline. Kazuki wondered if the world he was in was like the one in Brave Hearts. To find out, he needed to check if it was similar to other worlds. So, he decided to rely on what he knew from the original story. He thought that was the only information he could get from the room. Then he decided to go find another item to avoid any unfortunate outcomes. Harold went down into the dungeon. He told a guard to stay outside, indicating he needed to speak with the individual inside. Upon entering, he approached the person. He asked if she was Clara Mueller. Clara seemed surprised and asked if the time had already arrived. Harold said it could be, but he was there for a different reason and wanted Clara to answer his query honestly. Harold then asked Clara about her family, wanting to know if she had anyone else. Clara said she only had one daughter named Colette. Then, Harold asked what happened to her other family members. Clara explained that she drifted apart from them when she married her husband. Sadly, her husband passed away 3 years ago from an illness. Kazuki realized why Colette only had her mother left, with no other relatives. Harold then asked Clara how old her daughter was. Clara said Colette was 9 years old. Harold further inquired if Colette had any experience with magic or martial arts, to which Clara responded negatively, stating that Colette hadn't dabbled in such things. Kazuki thought this was good news because it matched what he knew from the original story. He also managed to understand the circumstances he wasn't aware of in this scene. Now that he had all the information he needed, his plans were set. Once Harold finished speaking with Clara, he began to walk away. Clara, however, stopped him in his tracks. She pleaded with him to take care of her daughter, Colette, if anything happened to her. She explained that Colette had done nothing wrong and didn't deserve to be alone. Harold didn't seem to care much. He thought Clara was being silly and he departed from the scene, leaving Clara's request unanswered. After coming back, Harold didn't seem bothered by his encounter with Clara. Meanwhile, Kazuki, feeling sorry for Clara, attempted to offer her comfort, though he realized his efforts were limited. At that moment, Norman walked in with a bunch of stuff, and Harold asked him what he had. Norman presented Harold with a map detailing the Stokes territory and surrounding settlements, along with information about them. Harold thought it was important and asked how Norman planned to help Clara. Norman admitted the challenge but suggested relocating her outside of Stokes territory as the best option. Harold thought about it and said they might need to send some workers and taxpayers to other noble families. He didn't mind, though. Norman was surprised by his response. He agreed that going to a place where the Stokes family had no power was safest. Harold then asked Norman where the best place to go was. Norman said they could send Clara to Bloche village, where Colette's family lives. Kazuki thought that they would most likely meet Colette there. What happens next would depend on whether their relationship develops like in the original story. He wondered if they could freely travel in other nobles' territories. Norman explained there weren't many rules, except for merchants and nobles. However, sending Clara to an unfamiliar place with nothing would be challenging. She would need at least some basic stuff to survive. Harold mentioned there'd be some costs involved. Plus, if they take Clara's daughter, they'll need an extra wagon. And getting permission to travel is a big hassle. Norman thought about it quietly, wondering if Harold truly cared about Clara's daughter. He had always believed Harold didn't care much, just like his parents. But now, it seems different. Perhaps Harold was genuinely concerned for Clara's daughter's well-being. Norman wondered if Harold's earlier talk about using Clara for magic tests was his way of keeping her safe from harm. He thought that maybe Harold didn't oppose kicking out disliked citizens because he wanted to save her. If Harold was trying to help her, Norman realized he needed to do his part as well. Hayden and his wife uphold elitist beliefs, valuing pureblood nobility and looking down on those who aren't of noble lineage. They view their citizens as inferior. Harold was asked about a town needing workers for the Harvest Festival. Harold responded that the cost of living there is too high, making it difficult for her to earn a stable income. Norman thought that despite this, Harold could make things better for everyone in the Stokes family. The next day, Harold attempted to utilize his fire magic by saying a special spell. He intended to create a substantial blaze. Unfortunately, his tries didn't work, and he saw that saying the magic words in real life was harder than in the game. Even though he felt excited about using magic, he knew he needed to focus. So, he made another attempt, thinking about making it seem like he burned Clara with his fire. He knew he had to make it seem real, or people might get suspicious. He realized she wasn't just a character in a game anymore, so Kazuki decided to act that very night. Failure was not an option, he reminded himself, as he prepared to execute his plan with determination. The mission began, and Clara and Colette finally met again. Harold presented them with two options. Either they died there, or they left Stokes territory to start a new life elsewhere. If they left, they would be considered dead in Stokes area, cutting off all ties. Clara was shocked and asked if Harold would allow such a thing. Harold dismissed her concerns, urging them to make a decision quickly. He hinted that it might be easier for him to just kill them. Clara apologized, but expressed her desire to live with Colette. Harold, not impressed, called Colette and gave her a necklace. He told Colette to always wear the necklace and never take it off. He said it was a condition for them to leave. Colette agreed, and Harold added that if she ever met a man who wanted the necklace, she should give it to him. He specified that it should be a capable man of similar age, and in return, he should promise to protect her. Harold told the guards to take Clara and Colette to the wagon as he had instructed before. He reminded them to be extra careful not to be seen by anyone else and warned that if the plan failed, They should consider their lives non-existent. Clara expressed her gratitude, and Norman suggested they depart as it was getting cold. Harold asked Norman to go back ahead. He wasn't feeling proud because he caused a commotion by accidentally bumping into Clara while she watered the flowers, causing him to fall and get muddy. Harold said it was his final job to do. Meanwhile, Norman felt Harold seemed upset about something. He wondered if he should stay by Harold's side, fearing that Harold might need support. But then he thought Harold would probably be okay soon, so he decided not to bother him too much. Norman heard something and went to see what was happening. He found Harold practicing his fire magic. Kazuki was relieved that he had sent Norman away earlier, just in case. But when he saw Norman, he wondered why he was still there. He asked him why he hadn't gone back like he was told. Norman apologized for not following the order. Harold told Norman to forget everything he saw today or keep it a secret for his whole life. Norman agreed, but he wondered why Harold was trying so hard to hide his weakness. Norman realized that Harold had been fighting a tough battle alone for a long time. He saw his parents as poor role models and aimed to surpass them. Even though Harold wasn't strong, he avoided arguments and tricked people, including his parents and others in the estate. Norman wondered how much this hurt Harold. He questioned himself why he had never tried to get close to Harold over the past 10 years and failed to notice his feelings. Norman decided he would make it up to Harold. He promised to support him for the rest of his life until Harold didn't have to pretend to be bad anymore. As they traveled, the guards were talking, telling each other to keep quiet about what they'd seen. They noticed Harold was busy the day before, preparing extra clothes, horses, and a wagon ready. He seemed excited, running around all morning. Harold then told the guards that when they reached Bloche village, they should leave Clara and Colette there. He gave some gold coins from his father to Clara as severance pay. The soldiers were confused, asking if Harold needed those coins to buy the sword. Harold just said they should buy a cheap sword instead, showing he didn't need the gold for that. Harold's parents were really surprised when they heard that Harold burned Clara so badly that there was nothing left of her. They praised Harold for his actions. Kazuki was also surprised that Harold's parents didn't suspect anything unusual. As Zen entered the room, Harold asked him to close the door quickly. Harold asked Zen why he was there, and Zen reminded Harold of their meeting on the night of the full moon, even though he was on a wagon at the time. Harold warned Zen not to talk about it unless he wanted trouble. Zen agreed not to talk, and he noticed that Harold didn't mind his presence despite their differences in status. It seemed like Harold didn't care about that. Zen noticed that Harold seemed worried about him, and he even remembered his name. He asked if Harold was growing bell tubers, Bruna, and Grudo to eat. Harold responded angrily, threatening to harm Zen. Zen declined the offer and commented on Harold's breeding methods, suggesting they seemed disorganized. Harold mentioned that some plants were mixed with water, wondering if it was a life potion. Zen mentioned he'd never heard of using restorative medicines on crops, but he acknowledged that it promotes plant growth, potentially increasing yield. Harold explained that plants without water mixed in would wither, so he was trying to find the right balance of water. Harold tossed a plant to Zen and told him to eat it. Zen was unsure about eating it raw, but when he tried it, he was surprised by how sweet and delicious it was, much better than usual. Harold felt pleased and thought that his experiment had turned out well. It wasn't exactly like the game, but his farming method for life potions had improved a lot. Considering the numerous natural disasters in Stokes territory in recent years, many farmers have struggled due to low crop yields and high taxes. So, Harold saw this as a good chance to help. Without the info Norman gave me before, I wouldn't have figured it out. I knew about the Stokes family ruling over their colony, but I wasn't sure how bad it was. But honestly, I don't care about how this family ends up, since I can't predict when people's discontent might erupt. So, I gotta get rid of any risks to myself. Harold instructed Zen to serve the plants to the cooks for taste testing. He wanted to know how they tasted compared to normal food and if people would buy them. Harold also told Zen to keep everything about the source and orders secret if anyone asked. Zen agreed and left as instructed. Harold was practicing with his sword, and Kazuki thought he was getting better at it. He wondered if Harold was good at using a sword. Kazuki knew he had a lot to learn, but he hoped that with practice, he could become as skilled as the character in the original story. Fighting is crucial in this RPG world. Living as Harold means I can't avoid fights in the main story, and I'll likely have to fight the heroes group too. A girl named Erica mentions the son of the Stokes family, and her father immediately says sorry. Erica told him not to apologize, saying they were doing this to help everyone in their town. She reminded him that as part of the Sumeragi family, it's their job to keep people safe. Erica's father expressed concern about the spreading of miasma, stating that 30% of the mountain has already been affected, making people sick. If the decay persists and affects the forestry industry, it will be difficult for Sumeragi to continue functioning as usual. He felt bad for having to give up their daughter to help the economy. He said sorry to Erica again. Erika's maid, Yuno, called out to her, but Erika told her it was okay and to leave her alone. Yuno agreed and walked away. Erika felt powerless, but she knew she had to sacrifice herself for her people's sake. That's all she could do to help them. Harold checked a paper and called the man a wretch. He asked if there were any big mistakes in it. The man said no. Harold said he didn't want to cause problems. He explained that the Stokes family's finances have been getting worse over the last few years. The main reason is my parents spending too much money to impress others. We're using our family's savings and collecting high taxes, but it won't work for long. It's making life harder for everyone. Do you think differently about this? The man agreed that things weren't going well. He admitted that many individuals faced financial struggles, leading to the closure of farms and an increase in immigration from the area. Harold agreed, saying it was urgent. Though it wasn't too bad right now, if things continued on the same path, the Stokes family would eventually face collapse. Harold was worried about the farmers and the economy. He feared bankruptcy if they couldn't improve their earnings. So, he called upon Jake, their inspector for the agricultural sector, even though he's not from a noble family. Jake asked Harold what he meant. Then, Harold called Zen over and handed a plant to Jake. Jake asked what it was, and Zen said it was Harold's handmade red Groot. When Jake tasted it, he was surprised by how sweet it was. Harold explained that it was a crop he had grown using a proprietary technique. To spread this technique, Harold asked for Jake's assistance. Jake wondered why Harold picked him. Harold explained that spreading the technique might cost money and need special tools. He believed that someone like Jake, familiar with the Stokes family's finances and lands, would be qualified for the task. Harold asked Jake if he could check if they could afford certain equipment and how much it would cost. Jake agreed to help if it could improve their situation, but wanted to know more first. Harold guessed Jake wouldn't agree until he heard the whole story. Harold told Jake that talking to his father like that would make him mad and could get Jake in trouble. Then Harold explained the farming idea. They'd use life potion on crops. They'd test it on some fields with several farmers to reduce financial risk. If it failed, they wouldn't lose everything. Harold added that the business would start on a small scale. If it failed badly, they'd help the farmers who couldn't invest more land into the life potion farming method. And even if the life potion farming, or LP farming method, is a success, we're going to try to limit the spread of economic disparity between the farmers as much as possible. We'll join some farms together, and we have enough life potions to handle it. Fortunately, most of them are expired and will be thrown out anyway, so we don't need to spend any money up front. Harold also said that the best thing about the LP farming method is how quickly the crops grow. Normally, with red Groot, it takes about 2 months to be ready to harvest. But with the LP farming method, it only takes 5 to 7 days. Jake couldn't believe it when he heard that the crops could be ready to harvest in just 5 days. Harold explained that while it's good news, they need to be careful. If the crops grow too quickly and flood the market with cheap, high-quality goods, it could harm farmers outside of Stokes' territory. Harold wanted to start with a small group because he was afraid his money-loving father would try to control the LP farming method. So, they decided to start small and limit how much they harvested at first, and if they slowly got more money, they could also test different crops. Harold asked them not just to watch, but if they felt something was wrong, to tell him without waiting for permission. They agreed to do so. Harold asked Jake to be his arms and legs. Jake agreed, saying he'd use all his strength for Harold. Harold reminded Jake to use his strength for the people, not just for him. Harold's dad, Hayden, told him about his arranged marriage. Harold was surprised and asked who. Hayden revealed that she was the daughter of the Sumeragi family. This marriage would help the Stokes family enhance its lineage, and Hayden said they wanted to see Harold. They planned to visit Sumeraga's place in 2 to 3 days. Harold agreed. Kazuki understood there was a planned marriage. The Sumeragi family helped start the country and is still close to the monarchy. Joining them would make the Stokes family's beliefs more respected. But the Sumeragi family wasn't happy about it because they were giving their daughter away to help their money situation. He realized that the Sumeragi territory is currently facing problems because of the miasma. Kazuki knew he couldn't do whatever he wanted if the Stokes couple could see. He also thought about the head of the Sumeragi family, Tasuku Sumeragi, who is compassionate, understanding, and well-connected. If he could get Tasuku Sumeragi on his side, he could take action more easily. He also believed it would be easier to help Liner and the others secretly. Even if it changes the story a bit, it's good to have Tasuku on his side. This engagement discussion is an opportunity for Kazuki to connect with the Sumeragi family. They were greeted warmly. They meet the Sumeragi family members, and Kazuki thinks about Erika Sumeragi, Liner's comrade, and the one he should be most cautious about. Erika was very kind and caring, even towards monsters. However, she didn't like Harold much. However, due to the Stokes family's financial support, she felt obligated and couldn't turn her back on him, even though she disliked him. However, if she doesn't join the hero group, that would be bad. She's their healer, and they need her. Without her, their quests would be much harder. So, even if he avoids every death flag if the hero group can't defeat the final boss and save the world, it's all for nothing. Tasuku Sumeragi introduced himself along with his wife, Koyomi, and their daughter, Erika. Harold introduced himself too and said he was pleased to meet them. Koyomi suggested that Tasuku and Hayden leave, so Harold and Erika could chat alone. Then, Koyomi asked Erika to give Harold a tour and come back for dinner. Erika led the way, showing Harold around. Erika Sumeragi, the daughter of Tasuku Sumeragi, and Harold reintroduced themselves to each other. As they began chatting, they delved into a conversation about a magnificent cherry blossom tree that bore delicate flowers representing the esteemed Sumeragi family. Over 500 years ago, when the feudal lord of the time moved there, he had brought some seedlings with him, and now it is considered the symbol of Sumeragi. The cherry blossom that Erika described was different from what Harold knew. Erika was surprised to know Harold knew about cherry blossoms, but then she questioned him again. Harold did not exactly know, but chances were it was some look-alike. Erika in any way did not care about something like that, but the way Harold put it in his words, Erika thought that Harold was not interested in cherry blossom or the Sumeragi family. Harold let Erika interpret his words as however she pleased, as she was always flawless with conversation. Harold, however, just wanted to change the topic. Erika started getting negative thoughts about how all the people wanted to get the Sumeragi name and title rather than knowing their roots. Harold could say something nice at that moment, for he thought it was better for Erika to hate him, thus Harold thought of using more vulgar lines. Harold sheepishly told Erika that only the name that she was referring to, she misunderstood something. Harold couldn't imagine that his Stokes family name was inferior either. He couldn't believe a prominent noble family like the Sumeragas would come pitifully crying to them, the Stokes. Erika was pissed by Harold and his narcissistic words. Looking at her expressions, Harold thought the insults that he had been spitting. He was not surprised by himself and his character, but now if he took this any further, then it would hinder his original goal. Continuing the conversation with Erika, he put his hands inside his pocket and drew out an envelope and handed it to Erika. She asked what it was, but Harold told her to stop questioning him and take it as it was, and after they head back, Harold advised her to give it to her father. Erika refused to hand the letter to her father. Harold arrogantly told her that she could go ahead and refuse how much ever she wanted if she wanted to see her people suffer and die. As Erika was walking away, listening to Harold's words, she thought he had something in his mind, some idea to save all the people. Erika questioned whether he meant that he had a way. Harold neither said yes nor no and hung Erika's questions, and maybe there could be, but he sarcastically told her she had nothing to lose. Harold put out the envelope again and slowly, thoughtfully, Erika pulled the envelope from his hands. Though Erika did not trust him, there was no need to trust Harold without reason. Harold told him to decide once she saw the result, whether to trust him or not. Norman welcomed Harold home. He asked whether Harold was tired from his long trip and would like to rest first. But Harold had summoned Norman for some other reason. Harold wanted to get the news on the LP farming method and how it came along. Norman informed that it was going very well, and the Norman's men had immediately explained it to the farmers, and also they had managed to secure usable fields without any issues. Harold couldn't believe that they would begin the trial in 10 days. Harold ordered Norman to continue to listen from now then, and Norman nodded in agreement. Harold was glad because things seemed to be progressing smoothly. Norman appeared to be conducting himself well too, behind the scenes. It did not seem like there was any concern about his parents suspecting Harold either. He thought regarding the Sumeragi family, that it would be fine to observe the Sumeragi family's circumstances for now. Knowing Erika, who cared for her people, Harold had calculated that Erika wouldn't disregard a chance to save her people who were suffering from the miasma, thus Harold believed that she would hand the letter to her father. But Harold had simply written the common item used to make antibiotics, and the range of the miasma contamination which he had estimated from a dungeon map wouldn't solve the issue itself, but Harold assumed that this issue would motivate Erika to become the protagonist's ally, and that Erika needed to get them to resolve it. Harold worried about Tasuku. He had no idea whether Tasuku would trust the contents of some completely absurd letter written by a 10-year-old and then make the antibiotics as Harold had planned out. If approaching Tasuku failed, then that was the moment he would take action. Harold would approach Tasuku through other means. For now, Erika took the letter, and that was a good start. A few days later, instructor and Harold were practicing sword fighting on the field. Harold was quite agitated with an instructor, as it seemed like he did not want to do it, and that instructor took the training very lightly. Instructor looked at the furious state of Harold, was scared as he tried to make Harold believe that it wasn't that he was not interested, but the instructor was trying his best. But Harold threatened him, telling the would instructor rather pour blows on Harold or have them repaid double, or would instructor rather face Harold's sword seriously. Harold wanted the instructor to be ready for any kind of battle, and if the instructor didn't want to have a bad time, Harold warned him to come at him while being prepared to die. Instructor knew that either way he would be having a hard time. Harold thought that it was his mistake to ask a soldier to be an instructor, as he was afraid of hurting Harold and of the subsequent punishment from his father. Nobody was challenging him with their full strength. Even though Harold wanted to promptly adopt some real combat techniques, but instructor was collapsing in fear against the newbie, and he thought, how could he call himself a soldier? Harold briefly considered asking his father for help, but he couldn't fathom his affectionate father being a serious teacher. At that moment, Norman approached Harold to inform him that he had a visitor. Harold was taken aback, realizing that he had a visitor, and went to see who it was. To his surprise, he found Erika Sumeragi-sama waiting for him at Tasuku's home. After the talk with Harold, Erika returned home. When she was back, Tasuku, Erika's father, was sorry to Erika, but Erika told her father not to worry because it was for the sake of Sumeragas and their citizens who reside on that land. Erika remembered the taunt Harold had given her about how powerful and prominent noble families like Sumeragas would come pitifully crying to them. She despised him and considered the envelope he had handed to her to give to her father. Erika thought Harold was a part of a family that treated anyone who wasn't a noble as an object, and she was a victim to someone who should be scorned, but Erika can only be helped by the Sumeragi family this way. She with a heavy heart handed the envelope to her father. Harold had entrusted Erika with a letter, and Harold had asked her to hand it to Tasuku once they returned. If there was even the slightest chance to save the citizens who were suffering, then she would swallow down any disgrace that would come her way. Harold found himself in a state of confusion and growing displeasure upon receiving the news of Erika's unexpected visit. As he processed the information, he couldn't help but mull over the various potential reasons for her visit. With the LP method trials looming on the horizon, Harold couldn't shake the unease of having Erika's presence potentially interfering with their crucial upcoming endeavors. Harold wondered whether Erika was there to respond to his letter, and even so, if it was that case, then why did they send Erika instead of a messenger was the major question. Erika was waiting on the tea table for Harold, and even if Harold tried, he could not get a read on her. Harold rudely asked her reason for their presence at his house, but she outwitted his rudeness, asking him to know that the basic response to such situations should be to apologize for making a lady wait. Harold replied that he did not have free time unlike her, and that she should be thankful to Harold that he even showed her face when she visited unannounced. Erika was apologetic for her uncertain visit. Harold tried to change the topic and asked her the reason for her visit and what she wants. Erika extended her gratitude on behalf of the Sumeragi family and that they had managed to save many of their citizens. Harold, when heard that Sumeragi was able to save the people, was certain that Tasuku made the antibiotics, that they were effective, and that Tasuku acted a lot faster than expected. Harold marked that in a situation like Sumeragas are in, to jump at something bootleg like that meant that Sumeragas be driven to the wall quite hard, and Erika agreed. It was as Harold had told her, they were out of options then. In such case, Harold told Erika that he would be expecting a lot for his generosity, and however not to misunderstand that whatever he had suggested to Sumeragi was merely a makeshift remedy, and that it couldn't serve as a fundamental solution, and there might be side effects as well. Erika questioned that whatever Harold said, it meant that the medicine was not completely a cure. Harold explained that if the symptoms were light, then perhaps it could cure, but it wouldn't work on those in serious condition, and Harold didn't intend to care for Sumeraga's people that much. Erika thought it was natural and understood well what Harold was trying to portray. Erika knew that both of them were engaged for political reasons, and as long as they granted them some honor, the Stokes family would maintain face, and yet Harold had gone out of his way to make Sumeragas their medicine. She questioned herself, when did he start taking the medicine? Was it after the engagement was decided? It couldn't be easy to develop medicine in just a few days. She also thought about where were the clinical cases being conducted. Sumeragas had thoroughly investigated and still couldn't find a solution. Then how could Harold figure out the medicine just by himself, she questioned. Harold asked whether her gratitude was just the reason for her appearance. But Erika was entrusted with a letter from her father to Harold. Tasuku must have thought that a letter on its own would be insincere, thus he had sent Erika as a messenger. In the letter, Tasuku expressed his gratitude, as he was truly very thankful that Harold had helped his people. He was drowned in his grace, that it was inexcusable to only express it in writing. Tasuku informed that there had not yet been any side effect, but for patients that take it for a long time in large doses, they would carefully observe the progress, claimed Tasuku. Harold had not thought that the antibiotics would take effect that soon. Harold thought, though, the Sumeragas had taken a step since the trial couldn't be run for a long time. The news would end with a single letter, but there was another too. Tasuku had written another letter telling him that the Sumeragi territory was suffering from a strange condition and they were pressured with dealing it. Tasuku did not know whether it was any unforeseen circumstances might occur from the sole unprecedented event sometime either, and though it pains Tasuku, he had another request for Harold. Tasuku had asked Harold to take care of Erika at the Stokes estates for the time being. Though Tasuku understood it was out of his place to involve personal feelings as the head of the family, as a father who was worried for his beloved only daughter. Tasuku wanted safety and reliance for his daughter. Harold couldn't understand the meaning of Tasuku's words, or that he didn't want to. Erika asked Harold what had happened. She took the envelope from Harold and sighed, "Oh my." Erika told Harold that it was concerning. Even though they were engaged, for them to live under the same roof would only be an inconvenience to Harold. Erika knew about it. She continued with her story of how the coach that she was sent there had already returned, and that she could now rely only on Harold-sama's benevolence to help her, and that was all. Harold understood her words and applauded her for her guts. Erika sheepishly thanked him, but Harold was frustrated. He thought it was nothing honorable about fulfilling a one-sided request like that. Erika commented that he was a cold person and that Harold would save another territory's people, yet he treated his fiancée as if she was nothing. That was because Harold had thought he could expect a lot in return for his generosity, but his compensation for that had been underwhelming. Harold strictly refused. Listening to this statement, Erika rose from her chair, knowing that now Harold wouldn't cave in. She said that if he was going that far, then she should not ask of any more than that, saying that she excused herself. It was a trap neatly plotted for Harold to cave in. Harold thought something was fishy as Erika left quickly. Harold started getting bad feelings about it. As the Stokes family coach passed by, people started whispering about the family, but trying to be careful. They thought how anyone might overhear them. A few hours after Erika left the Stokes house behind, a notice had arrived from Tasuku to Harold's father, Hayden. It notified that Lady Erika would be staying at their house for the next little while. Harold was not interested in living together with Erika, but Hayden thought that there was nothing to be embarrassed about, and both of their families had recognized Harold and Erika's relationship. She was slated to arrive at the eastern gate of their territory early next day, and Hayden told Harold to pick her up. Harold knew that bad feeling that he was getting hit the nail on the bear. That said, even if they had rushed the journey there, how could it take a week, and how could they arrive a day after the notice arrived to Hayden? At any rate, Harold knew that Hayden had already approved, and that meant that Erika was planning on staying at his house in the first place. Harold wondered what her goal could be. In any case, it was very unlikely that this development did not exist in the original story, and the cause of the incident was the letter Harold had written. In other words, Harold was just reaping what he had sowed. Erika's carriage arrived. Erika told Harold that it was an honor to be picked up by Harold-sama himself, but it was not as Erika had thought. There was someone else except Erika. Harold questioned who she was. Erika introduced her attendant, Yuno, and that she would be taking care of Erika's daily necessities during her stay. Yuno greeted Harold. Harold thought even though Erika herself was enough trouble for someone from the Sumeragi family who doesn't even appear in the original story to come with her. Erika's obscure involvement in a completely unknown character. If it came down to this, all Harold could do was only completely avoid these two and just let things pass by. Harold warned Erika that he didn't have the time to look after the two. They were free to stay, but Harold warned both to not get in his way. Erika and Yuno nodded in agreement. Hayden greeted and introduced the arrival of his Stokes family heir fiancée Lady Erika Sumeragi and her attendant Yuno to the helpers there. Hayden informed everyone that they would be staying at Hayden's place for the next while and told everyone to be sure to treat them with hospitality. Harold was embarrassed about his father and wondered what kind of public execution was it. Hayden assigned Harold a task to show their gratitude for recent events, to take Erika-chan out on a tour of their town the next day. As a noble, it was essential for Harold to possess the skill of escorting a woman. When Erika expressed her gratitude for his guidance and requested further assistance with a smile, Harold was taken aback. It dawned on him that he had unwittingly become entangled with her from the very start. At the Sumeragi estate, the surprise letter from Harold arrived at Kuryu and Sumeragi, and upon reading it, Kuryu found it suspicious. In response to a question Sumeragi asked, the letter was about the Stroke family, who had nothing to gain by supplying false information. The letter's content was based on the upcoming downfall of the Stroke family. Kuryu suggested that there could be someone who is the actual mind of this plot that pulling those strings, and they arrived at an acknowledgement that the letter was the activity of a messenger. Sumeragi stumbled upon a question about who wrote the letter, which made Kuryu think so deep. Sumeragi continued by saying that the letter contained many things that are beneficial for the Sumeragi family, therefore the helper must be on good terms with Sumeragis, but the contents of the letter and the extreme measure of sending a letter from the Stokes family to destroy the Stroke family itself are questionable and suspicious. Kuryu continued and concluded that the sender of the letter must be someone who abhors Stroke families, since they did directly help the Sumeragi family. This particular point puts both of them in a pickle point, but it wasn't so hard to filter out people who were suspect, and they ended up calculating the people who were close to Harold. That person, who was the messenger, must have something too precious to offer to Harold, or manipulated Harold by hypnosis. The latter sounded so convincing for both of them as they gasped when they realized this exact point. Sumeragi is vigilant at this point and says that this could be an attempt by the messenger to test the Sumeragi family from a critical point of view. Kuryu didn't agree with the idea because the Sumeragi family was in a predicament at that point of the story, and if the messenger could wait for some time they would achieve the same goal without making this ruckus. He made a valid point, but Sumeragi told Kuryu that might be the true intention of the messenger to mess with the predicament of Sumeraga's family, and Kuryu continued that if that was the case then the content of the letter must be true. Sumeragi stood up and ordered Kuryu to prepare necessities for the people who would volunteer participate in the massive plan. Kuryu nodded and answered him with determination. On the other side, a lavish dinner table filled with many food varieties, with only a total of 5 people dining, while the head of the Stokes family tells the guests to enjoy the dinner, which is specially made using freshly prepared ingredients grown in Stokes territory with love. The guests were Erika and Yuno, who seemed to be pleased with the food, while Harold frowned from the side. His mother noticed him and asked him what was wrong, and he flinched and answered that it was nothing. But his mother came closer to him and checked his forehead to confirm whether he had a fever or not, while leaving Harold speechless. The guests started to stare at them, behaving so affectionately, which left Harold shy and pled not to do this in front of guests. To which mom resulted in a burst of laugh by Harold's mother, and father teased him that he was always shy and now he was embarrassed to be pampered by his mother in front of his fiancée. Harold was in pissed thought that they must be the ones who are embarrassed, acting lovey-dovey with their grown-up son in front of guests. Amidst the chaos, Erika notices one of her acquaintances from the servants who were lined up closer to the door and continues to get lost in deep thought, while Harold gobbles up all the food to leave the table as soon as possible, thinking everybody is so cringed with the commentary of his mother saying that was disrespectful to eat such a way. Later at night in Yuno and Erika's room, while they were unpacking, sudden conversation about Harold's personality was stated by Yuno that he is quite rebellious as the rumors. Erika, who was sitting on the bed, replied to the comment that her father, Sumeragi, mentioned that Harold might be a traitor, or there is a possibility of him being used by a traitor. Yuno contrasted the idea of this, saying that he has such a personality and will not be obedient to anyone, and teased Erika, saying that she went out of her way to check Harold's intention, but it will be no use. Erika is determined to figure out Harold's intention, since she couldn't have him make Sumeragi family in danger, thus making it confirm whether he is trying to help or trick the Sumeragi family. Thus figuring out his intention was the only method of clarifying that doubt, Erika says to Yuno with a stern voice. Yuno turned and assured Erika not to worry, and that was why Yuno was here as a spy, to figure out what kind of person Harold was, while Erika worried about Yuno. She assured her not to worry, and this was her forte, and put Erika to sleep and marched into her mission. While staring at the window outside the room, she began to think about whether his behavior was real or not. If it was a fake facade, then Harold must be linked to a traitor, but if he was not, as per the orders, Erika was supposed to target Harold during daytime to rattle him while his father was busy with work and his mother takes her eyes off him, but that was useless since working together Reed not proposed yet. That leaves the second option, which he might be controlled as a puppet with hypnosis without his own will, as Tasuku-sama has suggested to Yuno. Then her demeanor changed, with a smirk on her face and blades in her hands, and with a threatening aura she said that it would take some effort to finish it off, but by that what did she mean? The next morning Yuno started her investigation regarding Stokes' family. She ventured into town determined to find answers to her questions. Her best approach was to inquire among the citizens of the town. She got to know if the Stokes find anything unsatisfactory, they would ridicule that individual. Apart from that, they would treat all the citizens who are not nobles as objects. Most of the profits that the citizens earn from their business would be taken away by the Stokes because of heavy taxes. Hence, there were a number of citizens who were forced to live a frugal life. Moreover, the Stokes territory had been focused on funding military, so it was obvious that even if the citizens started riots, they were likely to get killed. Yuno got to know something mysterious about Harold from a stranger. The stranger believed there was some issue with Harold. The stranger had heard a rumor about Harold from people who visited the state, but he wasn't certain if it was true. However, considering he was the son of Hayden, there was a high possibility that Harold was involved. Meanwhile, Harold was giving Erika a tour of the city. Erika looked disturbed as for some reason people around her were murmuring and laughing on her. Harold was puzzled, as he couldn't figure out where was the store that Norman told him to visit. The Stokes territory wasn't on the field map, so he was not familiar with that area. Eventually, Harold reached to that certain store and asked the shopkeeper to give a certain item to Erika, and he would send the messenger later to pay for that item. The shopkeeper nervously welcomed Harold-sama and gave Erika the item that Harold asked for. Upon receiving the item, Harold observed that Erika looked uncomfortable, was shaking in fear. Harold figured she seemed to hate him quite spectacularly. Harold knew that Erika ignored the rumors about Harold killing Clara, and Erika was just making herself sure about those rumors. Harold contemplated about what he heard from their soldiers, that some of the servants who passed by spread the word about what happened on that day. Harold was worried about the safety of Clara and Colette's and the possibility of creating friction with his parents. Harold hadn't thought of any decent countermeasures if the situation deteriorated. Erica was done roaming in the Stokes territory and asked Harold if they could go back home. Upon reaching home, Harold asked Jack how was the growth coming alone. Jack replied he had confirmed all those 6 locations and they were undergoing favorable growth. And the harvest was mostly turning out as per their expectations too. Harold wanted to proceed to the next step of expanding their operation, but unfortunately if they expand any further, they would be lacking in manpower, and without proper inspections they might encounter farmers who act in their own self-interest. Harold couldn't do anything personally regarding lack of manpower. He wondered if they could use anyone else in the estate. Norman believed it would be really difficult for them at that time. They could use Arias and Sexton as inspectors, but it wasn't realistic to send them out to the farm when they had their ordinary duties. Harold wondered whether they could hire people from outside. Harold could ask his father that he needed some close aides. Jack interrupted their conversation as he needed to finish his report regarding the soil in the experimental fields. Currently, they hadn't witnessed any effect from the use of life potions. Jack explained that the designated rotation was 7 times for the red Groot, 6 times for the bell potatoes, and 11 times for the Bruna. Jack had been getting their chef to regularly check sample as well, but there had not been any differences in taste. Harold believed that wasn't necessarily a bad report, but there was still not enough testing to judge it to be perfectly fine, so they need to continuously grow samples and observe their progress. After a while, Yuno asked Erica, how did she return so early? Erica was tensed as she had heard from the citizens that there was barely anyone who supported the Stokes family. Erica didn't expect the hatred towards Stokes family to that extent. She figured the stares from the servers last night wasn't her imagination, as they were out of pity for her as Harold's fiancée. Yuno knew such hatred wasn't ordinary, but based on what she heard from the citizens, it was justified. Erica believed Yuno's investigations were going smoothly then. It was easy for Yuno, as once she brought up one matter, she got 10-20 more matters, but there was one story that piqued her curiosity. Erica wondered what story could pique Yuno's curiosity. Yuno told Erica that recently Harold Sama used magic to burn down a servant and her family to ashes. The one who was murdered was a woman named Clara and her daughter Colette, who was only 9 years old. Erica got terrified and could believe one could do such thing. Erica believed it could be some slander. Yuno agreed it could be a slander, but she got practically the same testimony from all of the servants, and she was certain that it couldn't be an unsubstantiated rumor. Erica's eyes welled up after hearing that, as Harold loathes her and insulted the weak. But even so, he found them a ray of hope to save Sumeraga's people. Hence, she believed Harold Sama might have been different from his parents. Yuno warned Erica to avoid being alone with Harold Sama, as they might never know whether something might happen, and meanwhile, she would continue to spy on Harold. Yuno comforted Erica that she was there for her and Erica would be completely fine. 2 weeks have been elapsed, during which the servants had been gossiping about Sumeraga's daughter, noting that her condition hadn't been the same since the day she went out with Harold. Meanwhile, deep inside a forest, Harold practiced diligently. He was convinced that choosing the same forest he utilized during Clara's rescue operation for his special training was the right decision. The area was secluded and devoid of disturbances, allowing him to freely wield his blade. Harold combined magic with his swordsmanship, but he found the results lacking. It didn't meet the standards required for battle. Although, that was a newbie magic that one can acquire before level 10, with a swift lightning of that degree. He was nowhere near a match for the Harold in original story. That was unacceptable, and considering that person's strength in the game, he should be capable of more. Yuno was spying on Harold, and she witnessed that Harold was wielding a sword practically as tall as he was, and seamlessly integrating sword technique with magic. Yuno believed Harold must have some great secret behind that strength. Yuno believed Harold would be posing risk to them and she should confront him right there. Little did she know, if she would confront him, then Harold might attack her with his sword and she might not be able to survive unscathed. At the very least, she probably didn't stand a chance against him, and she decided to fall back and came back later. In a sudden turn of events, Harold hurled a sword towards a tree where Judo was concealed. Startled, Judo found herself in a panic, torn between fleeing or remaining hidden. She knew what were the chances. Harold had already seen her through her spy actions. If he possessed such ability at only 10 years of age, that possibility was more than likely. The reality was he threw that sword at her, so she couldn't lie her way out of this one. Harold was worried as the sword slipped out of his hands. Harold didn't know who it was, but even though he tried calling out their name, but they didn't show themselves at all. Harold was confused because he didn't know what to do, as he expected them to show themselves after the sword pierced through the tree. He wondered whether he hurt them really bad that they couldn't even move. Yuno decided to reveal her presence as she had no other option. Harold was shocked upon seeing her. Yuno apologized for peeping on him, and it was a mere sudden whim. Harold wondered why she was peeping on him. Harold contemplated there wasn't anything interesting about watching a kid of his age play around with a sword, but he was glad that Yuno wasn't hurt. Harold didn't really mind her watching him, but she shouldn't hide like that as Harold didn't who or where someone was. He could have hurt her unwillingly. Harold told her to not loiter around in the shadows. If she didn't know her place, she would be severely injured. Yuno sincerely apologized to Harold for her activities. Yuno smirked as she believed Harold gave her warning. She knew there was no next time if she were to tread any further. Yuno pondered how easily Harold sensed her presence and settled the situation without any harm done. Would she be able to protect Erika Same from someone who had the ability to overpower her that easily? What Harold had said was indicative that he realized that much himself. She believed that was an utter defeat for her as Harold wasn't someone who could be a mere puppet to anyone. Because of the strength and ingenuity that he had, Harold smirked and asked what was wrong with the sheltered girl. Yuno replied Erika-sama still didn't appear to be feeling well and she was likely to be troubled from that foreign environment. Harold believed she was homesick and suggested both Yuno and Erika to scurry on back home. Yuno didn't expect those cold words and recalled Harold that she was still his fiancée, so could he show her a bit more kindness? If Harold could do that, he wouldn't have so much trouble. Harold told Yuno how idiotic was she, as she told herself that they were in a temporary relationship and he had no intention on being tied down by such a thing. Yuno got shocked after hearing that. Harold immediately realized his mistake, that he had said too much. There was still no reason for anyone to know of his considerations towards canceling their engagement. Harold panicked and told Yuno that he didn't need to explain anything to her. Nonetheless, that was quite some time for her to merely not feeling well. Harold recalled Erika's character didn't have any such weakness. He wondered whether that could be some flag. Harold had ventured deep into the forest when he realized that he had left his trusty sword behind. Concerned about leaving such a lethal weapon unattended, he hurried back to retrieve it. He knew he couldn't rely on Yuno to retrieve it for him, so it was up to him to ensure the safety of his weapon. Harold needed to hurry and fetch it before the forest turned dark. At a far distance, Harold saw Eric facing her back. Harold was worried about her health and thought, was she better enough now to move around, and was it okay for her now? Was she really okay, cause it would be bad if she were to collapse in a place like this. There was no choice left for him except to convince Erika to return to her room. Harold rudely asked Erika about her doings in a place like that and that he had heard Erika was bedridden from poor health. Harold called her an idiot who couldn't even handle herself properly. He told her not to loiter around in a place as silent and mysterious as a forest and to hurry back to her room. Although he would sigh relief if Erika went back to his own home, deep down just wanted to say, was she okay? He thought to himself, how could he manage to turn a simple sentence of asking about her well-being into that flaming extent? Erika was completely silent and Harold couldn't see it. Harold asked her to speak up something or at least not stay so silent, but it was of no use. Harold thought, as the age as they're both Harold and Erika, if somebody they didn't like was standing before them, then it wouldn't always be easy to openly speak. So Harold figured out that he would rather settle down and return to her room on her own. Harold was walking away as he didn't mind even if Erika's condition worsened or anything. Just then Erika spoke up to Harold. She paused and said that she had a thing that she would like to ask. Harold turned around and was confused as to what would be the question. Erika had heard a rumor that Harold had burned a servant into ashes. She asked him if it was true. Harold took a moment to analyze. He said he did not intend to hide it from anyone or so, despite that he thought that the cat had been out of the bag got a long time now. Thus the answer to her question was obvious, but Harold told her that he hadn't burned the servant, rather who he killed was the servant and her daughter. No matter how many Harold killed, it wouldn't make much of a difference if they won't be remembered in a heroic tale. Erika couldn't believe why would Harold do such a thing, but Harold clarified that he did it for no particular reason, but if he had to say, then the both servant and daughter were pissing Harold off. They were akin to livestock, and it was Harold's choice to spare or kill someone on a whim. Erika had already enough of Harold's words, but he continued that as an act of mercy so her daughter wouldn't be alone. He killed them both. Rather, they would be probably thankful for that, and after all, they were an inferior species ever since they were born. Erika pleaded with him to stop, but he wouldn't, as he continued to tell the not-so-gallant story for her. She, with tears filled in her eyes, raised her hand and slapped Harold. Erika told Harold that he was the worst human she had ever met and she had nothing more to say to him. Harold still behaved arrogantly and told her he was pleased to hear that and it didn't matter to him at all. Erika excused herself and walked about. When Erika left, Harold felt the sting of the slap and stood there for a minute. When he returned to his place, Zen welcomed him with lots of energy and started asking him questions about Harold's training and others. Zen had finished his duties just then and arrived to hang out. But then Zen realized that Harold was in no mood. Harold's face was all pale. Zen was worried and asked him the matter, but instead, Harold asked Zen to get out of his room and leave him alone for the entire day. Zen started questioning why, but Harold was in no mood to answer him, thus Harold pushed him out of the door. After locking the door, Harold let out a heavy sigh and slid down to the floor. As he sat there, he couldn't help but recall the time when Erika had struck him. The constant abuse had taken its toll, and even though he had only been trying to push Erika away, the emotional pain of feeling attacked directly had been incredibly difficult to endure. The sun had already risen high in the sky, casting a warm glow through the window, when Harold found himself still cocooned in his bedsheets. As he glanced at the clock and saw that it was already 2:30, he realized with a start that he had overslept and it was well past noon. At that moment, a sudden sharp pain flared in his cheek, and as he reached up to touch the tender spot, he couldn't help but wonder if the slap he had received had caused some real damage. If a fan of this game saw that specific scene of Harold getting slapped, they would be satisfied with that feeling. Harold deserves that shit of slap, but what was felt by Harold is different. He felt it was unfair, and while continuing his thoughts, his stomach started to rumble from hunger. ASAP, Harold stopped his train of thoughts and planned to head to the dining room to fetch up some food. He is eating fine sandwiches when Butler Kun visits Harold in the dining room upon his summon and inquires or is more worried about Harold waking up late and his body being fatigued, but Harold assures him that he is fine, he just slept later. Butler continues to worry, but Harold cuts him off by talking about a current issue of recruiting people from outside regarding the LP farming method. Ends up with a question from Butler whether Harold thought of a brilliant idea of increasing workforce, but ends up shutting his mouth from the response of Harold telling him that whether he has any ideas or not depends on how the Butler approves with his idea, and Harold leaps into another question towards the Butler, proposing his idea to sign the merchants by demonstrating the benefits of LP farming method. Butler was kind of bewildered and was like, "Merchant? It's a fresh concept." Harold continued to explain to him all the pros, saying they would force some merchants to buy LP farming method and resell it to farmers, while the farmers would pay the contract fee, and that fee would be split among the inventors and merchants. Being it cannot be carried out well and lawfully if there is no talented person to designate as inspectors to farmers, and also a big company. And inquired the Butler about any companies that Harold could count on, but he got a negative answer in reply. Butler continued to say that without connections, even if they presented their proposal to a company, they would neglect and pay no attention to it. Also continued that there could be a scarcity. Independent merchants. Harold pondered that his parents might have a connection, but it was that far-fetched and he didn't wish to tell all the details them about the LP farming method. While letting his mood down, Butler noticed it pretty fast and started to compliment pros of Harold's idea, mentioning the idea of recruiting merchant was brilliant. All now the problem was to get into a trustable company, lifting Harold's mood. Harold was couched but sat back properly and answered the Butler would focus on getting into contact with trustworthy ones and told him to share the plans with Jake as well. Butler replied certainly. Harold's room door was getting knocked continuously by a person who seemed to be a little worried about having no reply from him, and decided Harold was absent, most probably from training, and he was a little down since he woke so early to meet him, yet didn't get the chance. He was Zen. Zen encountered a sudden visitor when he was returning from the room. It was Erika-san. Zen got closer to her and greeted her by introducing himself, since Erika didn't seem to know he was. He inquired about because she didn't seem to come this time, and Erika replied that she was out of town for some of her issues, bringing back to the reason why she had come here. Zen questioned her what was the reason for her visit. Is it to visit Harold-sama? Anyone would think that, duh. And he said he was not in his room and he was overworking all this time, with a worried look on his face. Erika fidgeted, looked up and asked Zen whether he knew about how Harold killed a servant using his magic. Zen, not sure about how to answer her question, replied by saying that he was not sure about any of the rumors, since rumors could be lies after all, and he did not want to believe anything that he wasn't sure about. The topic was uncomfortable for Zen. Erika then started to frown eyebrow, and with anger in her voice, she stated that Harold confirmed the rumor himself. There is no smoke without the fire, duh. And she continued to blame Zen for acting ignorant, since he is also a servant here. Obviously, it would be a lie if he said he died but knew the death of another comrade servant. She continued, not letting Zen answer while he was dying uncomfortable, and directed a sharp question towards him as to how can she even start to follow, accept, and like Harold Zen does. How can she even do that when she knows how he killed a person? She seemed emotional. Zen tries to talk to her, then she started to explode her emotions, stating that even she is his fiancé and engaged to save her people, even if it's her only option to be helpful to some Roggy family. She couldn't forgive him for what he did, and it was the only thing on her mind, constantly masking all other emotions, and she burst into tears. ASAP, she got up, apologized for shouting and such unsightly behavior, and dashed past Zen. Zen was frozen. No, he was more like so upset about the situation, causing more and more misunderstanding. Erika and Harold both are simple in many aspects, sacrificing themselves for the greater good. Harold, who saved the baby and the woman and bore the name of a murderer, and Erika, who sacrifices her feelings for her people and family, are alike. He wondered if it was right for these people to go in separate ways and end things, and he started to be frustrated at this hopeless situation and started to decide that it couldn't go on like this. Since both of them were kind and shared the same strength, they should show their true selves to each other and communicate with each and be together with each other. He called Erika and asked her to follow him. She was like, He thought this was the best remedy for now, even if it befalls Harold's anger him. He still decided to do this because he was afraid Harold would break into pieces in the future, and Zen doesn't wish that upon Harold. He wishes Harold would be happy as sun rays befall on him and warm him by melting those thorns hurts his heart. He was sure that if he son take any action today he will regret in the future, so decided to do it anyway. Erica is someone Harold needs. He asked her to follow her, but she was saying something. He ignored it and pushed her towards the door of Harold's room. Bewildered, Erica questioned him where was she. Zen closed the door and replied that it was Harold's room with a smirk. Erica froze. As someone's footstep was towards the room, Zen hid Erica somewhere. That someone was Harold, who surprised Zen by suddenly opening the door, and he started to glare at Zen with annoyance, resulting in Zen being in a funny karate pose. Harold asked what Zen was doing in his room, and then Zen replied that he was just peeping into the room because nobody answered it. Erica was seen nowhere while these two bicker in the room. Erica-san was in the closet, pushed and shut by Zen, all worried that she missed her perfect timing to escape, thinking what was it that Zen thought it was quite disrespectful considering it was a guest of his master. While Zen and Harold were conversing outside the closet, she could hear them crystal clear and also Oculus. Peep though. Zen gets straight to the point that he came here to talk about certain things, while Harold tells him to make it short since Zen blabbers too much away. Zen stated that he went to town and heard some malicious rumors passing around about Clara. All the customers and owners of the stores that he visited pestered him with more information, and it was quite a difficult situation to be in, and continued that although he did tell anything, and doing so will hurt the reputation of Harold more down, and suggested some certain measures must be taken to prevent it before it gets too late. Harold let a huge sigh, saying he was wondering about what Zen was talking about, and it turned out to be this topic that he decided on and dropped. Zen insisted, but with a cold and sharp tone. Harold asked him what could be even done. Would leaking Clara and Colette escape the DeBlaus village safely and still alive? Would announcing such information do good? Erica, who was astonished by the good news of them being alive, was shocked to be a statue. Zen replied that he would never leak that information even if he died, and Harold stated further, saying that it was better to drop this topic off since he already decided it. And if his parents were to catch any news of them being alive, Harold would be held suspicious. Zen continued as to why he doesn't share this, at least with Erica, because she seemed too depressed about her fiancé being a ruthless murderer. Harold firmly told Zen, not with an angry look on his face, even before Zen got to finish his sentence. Zen flinched, and Erica seemed to feel down due to that response from Harold. Zen hesitated and yet asked why not. Harold, the one who was transmitted, knew that it was the best way to avoid the death flag by making Erica hate him, known only to him. Zen was a good guy with good intentions, but that food would of his now be the downfall of Harold, so he thought of making up a plausible excuse so that Zen won't ever blabber or take this topic back. He took a breath and stated that Erica was crying, obviously because of either he murdered someone or a mother and child died. Erica's heart was fragile as bug, filled with sympathy for others, and it would hurt such a person to stay by his side. Zen replied with a question, asking him whether it was the reason that Harold kept his distance from her, and it was also because he was worried about her. Harold stated that he is not a saint and he doesn't want to get married to some annoying girl who cries for everything. She is a drama queen, duh. Zen again asked Harold a question about whether he had any intentions of marrying her, cut off by a reply saying obviously no by Harold. He continued by saying it was a business marriage arrangement that was bought with money, not like they liked each other. It was practically a deal between two families, where Stokes' family assisted Sumeragi when they fell into a slump due to the failure of the forestry industry by a miasma that plagued the forest, and this marriage was to repay and ensure both support and connection with Stokes' family. Zen asked Harold if breaking off the engagement could cause fatal damage to the Sumeragi family since they needed Stokes' family help. Harold smirked and told him that he already thought of that problem and found the solution, and now almost solved it by sending a letter to the Sumeragi family via Erica about mentioning how to create an antibody against the miasma, the plague, all the precautions to be taken, and offered them using LP farming technique. Harold saw sly enough to promote his business in the middle of chaos. Erica was frozen. He continued that with the help of miasma antibody and LP farming techniques, they won't even need the help of the Stroke family in the future, therefore breaking off the engagement will be no longer a greater problem. Erica was happy that her territory could have such a hope of recovery. Her eyes were watered. Zen replied he understood more or less and grasped all the details anyhow that Harold explained, and Harold warned him to take precautions for Zen's future since Stroke's family could go into a slump one day in the future. Who knows, it might change since we've got a transmigrator. Zen wondered, since there was no way of downfall since LP farming would make a lot of profit. Harold sighed and replied saying that it would be okay if the signed people didn't have heavy taxes and spent excessively, but it could happen. Zen panicked, asking then what would be the result of citizens of the territory. Harold assured him that Tasuku Sumeragi would never allow it, since in the letter he sent him, Harold had requested to protect the territory people fairly if ever the Stokes family fell down, and since the Sumeragi family is connected to the royal family, they would of course never behave in a way to harm royal family reputation. Harold scared Zen that's all the story was, and if he dared to leak it he would see a bad end. Zen panicked, promising that he would never do that, and was sneaking a look at the closet where Erika hid. Erika was feeling so sad and down at that moment, filled with guilt probably. Harold tried to chase Zen off, but Zen stayed back and inquired about Harold's plans for the day, since if only Harold got out, Erika could be taken out of the suffocation closer. Harold refused to answer. Zen, who knew about how crazy sword fanatic Harold was, spewed that he wanted to watch Harold training, and that he was so untested in swordsmanship as of recently. After a pretty short mental calculation, Harold garbed 2 swords and dragged Zen out of the room to use him as a sparring partner who had no previous experience, so more of like a punching bag. Zen shivered and refused to go, but Harold showed a killer smirk and told him all he had to do was move and not die in the process, and dragged him off to the training ground. The door was closed with the sound of Zen weeping got further away. Erika opened the closet door and got outside of it, and paused, thinking with a heavy expression that was mostly guilt and sadness, recalling that Clara and Colette were alive and she misunderstood Harold the whole time she ran towards her room. Such a questioning expression on her face as she entered the room. She checked whether Juno was present. Yuno welcomed Erika back. As soon as she spots Yuno, Erika shouts that there is something that she must confirm immediately. What could be it? Erika contacted Yuno to have a discussion. During their conversation, Erika shared all the information she had heard and asked Yuno if the rumors about Harold were true. The discussion also touched on the source of the antibiotics, which seemed to make sense in light of the information shared. Erika claimed that it was not possible to develop the drug in just a few days, and sadly the Sumeragas worked together to search but did not find any clinical sample. So that meant that Harold had likely predicted Sumeraga's crisis beforehand, and perhaps even many years before the engagement was decided. Moreover, even if Harold helped Sumeragas, he had nothing to gain. Harold had developed a drug to help the Sumeragi family, which he shouldn't have anything to do at all, and Harold had surely spent an overwhelming amount of time on it. Something felt really out of place. Harold-sama was a powerful person who easily sensed Yuno's spy, and thus she questioned whether Harold had intentionally not noticed someone hiding in his room, or could be because it was Erika. Erika could not find an explanation for that, but that could be something he planned out once again to provoke Yuno. The more they both, Yuno and Erika, thought about it, the more suspicious bad became. Harold's fearsomeness was truly unfathomable. Harold, on the other hand, was zoning out. It had been 3 weeks now since he took that slap on his face. It had been a month since Erika and Yuno moved there, and he wondered when would they return to their own home. Well, it wasn't a situation to worry about, and even Harold's hands were tied with the search for a company as well, so this wasn't the time to be concerned. Harold heard a knock on the door, and it was Norman. Norman informed Harold that Hayden had summoned him. Upon reaching Hayden, Hayden told Harold, as he was already aware, that Lady Erika had not been in great health lately. Upon Juno's request, Hayden was having her return to Sumeraga's territory. Harold was elated listening to this. That was great, and now that he'll be relieved since he'll never have to see Erika's face Eve again. But Hayden dropped another news that Harold would be escorting Lady Erika, and that he was going to stay at the Sumeraga's residence for a while to deepen the relationship with them. Harold was baffled as to why would he do that, and what was the reason he needed to do something like that. Lady Erika was the Sumeraga's family's beloved daughter, and at least Harold must show care for his future wife and get intimate with Erika. As her fiancé, Harold must show sincerity and claim Lady Erika's heart, Hayden said, rather than sincerity. Harold knew that Hayden just wanted to show the Sumeragas that Erika and Harold were on good terms. The situation was bad for Harold. Despite that, he wanted to avoid Erika even under normal circumstances. It was as if he was going under a minefield. But then he had an idea that could be a chance for him to spread his LP farming method. Proposing the idea to Tasuku was slated to be done after selling the LP farming method to a company in Stokes territory and performing more trials. Currently, given the circumstances, it did not seem promising, but if it was Sumeraga's family, then Harold's idea could work, and he was sure it would go well. After all, his best card for making Tasuku his ally had already been played. Perhaps his deep sympathy and taking a bet in the situation as such would come to a reward after all. Thinking about all this, Harold told Hayden that he would depart shortly and he would get ready. Hayden was happy to see that Harold was worrying about Erika that much, and told him that both Erika and Harold might have gotten closer before Hayden realized. Harold told Hayden to leave such things to him, while he secretly thought how naive his father was. In Bloche village, a young tall man was greeting and questioning people. The young man was looking for a woman by the name of Clara Emiller.